Right. Since we've never seen him as happy as he was in the last episode.
Everyone dies in the first 5 minutes.
Well, they keep saying it's going to be different. So.
It is going to be different. No, but you know what? We haven't really seen, ever since Slade Wilson walked into the Queen Mansion, Oliver has been up against it bad. And I don't think that the first 4 acts of episode 301 really count. I mean, that guy's been in dire straits. And I think that it was important that we went through that to get to where we are now. But I also think that going back there for the same reasons wouldn't be interesting. So whether or not there are dire circumstances in our show, and it is our show, so there are going to be dire circumstances, Oliver, if he has to deal with them, is going to deal with them in a different way.
Wendy and Mark were talking about going back to seeing Oliver in the suit as well as in the arrow suit. Can you talk a little bit about what you hope for Oliver as, you know, Oliver Queen versus the Arrow?
Well, he can't be the Arrow, right? So he would have to, if he's going to be a crime fighter, hero, part of the team again, he'll have to be something different. One of the things that I feel like we lost by the midway point of season 2 and for all of season 3 was the public persona of Oliver Queen. It's a really important part of the show that I be out there doing things, and I will say that on the public persona side, people that are fans of the comics and the canon are going to be extremely excited with what we're doing in season 4.
So we talked to your castmates. They seem to be 50-50. Some like to read ahead. They want to know where it's going, and some don't want to read ahead. Do you like to know where it's going?
I read way ahead. I read way, way ahead. I've usually known what's going to happen. And I don't know if that's what, you know, maybe that might be a factor of people on the cast sometimes come and talk. They may say they don't like to read ahead, but oftentimes people will come and talk to me about things like, what have you heard? I've heard this. And it's very useful for me to be able to tell them, to talk to them. So from that standpoint, it's almost as if it's my responsibility as the title character on the show to read ahead.
Awesome. What have you heard?
I've read 3 episodes so far, and all of them seem bigger than our season finale last year, so we're in for some long days and nights, but that's good. There's a nice element of, I know Mark and Wendy probably touched on this, but there's a nice new element of magic, mysticism this year that I think will also tie into Oliver's flashback story, because when it appears on the scene, it is something, as it normally is, that he is familiar with from his time away.
So at the end of last season, before Oliver literally drove off into the sunset, a lot of his relationships with people like Diggle and all that were very strained.
Yeah.
Like, how is Oliver going to come back into that? Like, what does that mean for what were really strong relationships before?
Well, I mean, he's good with Thea.
Okay.
As long as she's good with herself, I suppose. I know that there will be some issues with Laurel, but I think that we're going to move through those. He's good with Felicity, and there's everything is on the table with Lance. So whether he loves or hates Oliver's other persona, at least there's no bullshitting anymore. And but things with Diggle are bad. They're really bad, and there's certain lines that you can't cross, and when you do, you can't go back. And that's what Oliver did. Those were the stakes. So I really hope that relationship can be repaired. But like, you can break your leg, and you can get it fixed, and you can be like 99% of what you were, but you will have always broken your leg. Even if there's a titanium rod in there, something is different. Something is cracked.
It seems like no matter how much two people know each other, when they form a relationship, a third person develops. There's a new entity there, and we really haven't met that entity yet with Oliver and Felicity. Can you talk at all about that relationship they have, about that, the personality that it has?
Well, we've never. I mean, we do get to see some of the interplay with them, and they are very happy. But it's interesting. It's interesting who is happier than the other one. who is more at peace than the other one. It's almost always, if you were to say, who's restless, who's angst-ridden, who's this, who's that, of course it would be Oliver. Oliver's totally at peace at the beginning of season 4. I mean, we see that in an emotional sense and in a, I almost feel like a body posture sense, but we also definitely, we see it. This was actually one of my pitches. We had a really cool way of actually physically seeing Oliver removing some of what has happened to him over the past 8 years.
So how much is going to affect the new show, Lady System?
I don't know. You know, we have to in the same way that Barry Allen came in for episodes 208 and 209 and then launched out into his own thing. We've got a bunch of characters. We have Sarah. We have Ray Palmer. There's Hawkgirl. There's Captain Cold. There's Firestorm. There's Heatwave. I'm probably missing somebody. Oh, there's Rip Hunter, who's a character that, you know, all this stuff. So we have to build those characters out. Once their show is actually up and running, I don't know how it's going to work at all. I really don't, but I'm excited for it.
Okay, last question.
So, athlete, politician, superstar, who's come out of the woodwork to say, "Oh my God, I'm a huge fan of the show," that maybe surprise you, or maybe you're being stalked by another celebrity?
No, I'm not being stalked. I got to meet a bunch of the Blue Jays. I'm from Toronto, and that's my hometown team. And it is a little jarring to this day when professional athletes, a lot of whom I'm older than now, it doesn't feel that way, but I am. You know, I'm 30. I just turned 34, and they're like, you know, a lot of these guys are like 25, 26, and a couple of them were like, "Hey man, I'm a huge fan of the show. When I travel with the team or when I'm in a hotel, I like have it on my iPad," and I always go, "Really?" So that's pretty cool. Barry.